Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EOSC Core and Marketplace Provider Days. I'm Katrien. I will be moderating the sessions today. Thank you all very much for tuning into this event. In the coming days, we want to give current providers, new providers, and people that are interested in becoming providers information about EOSC. Specifically the EOSC platform, why you should join it as a provider, what you can provide, how you can provide, and what you can get out of that. Today, we'll have general sessions giving an introduction to EOSC for providers. And then tomorrow and the day after, we'll have sessions for specific audiences. So we're hoping to see you in several of these sessions. The first thing that I want to talk through with you is that we will be collecting questions via Slido. You can join the Slido by entering the code that you see on your screen now, or you can just scan the QR code as well. Then what we have on the agenda for today is that there will be an introduction to the EOSC core and marketplace, to the EOSC for data and service providers. Then we'll have the EOSC core, then a session on verification, then an introduction to the EOSC portal, and then a session on the interoperability framework and the steps that have been taken there. Then we'll have a short wrap up at the end of the session as well. What we're going to do before we start the first session is that I'm going to hand over to Sara Garavelli now. Sara is the EOSC program manager at the CSC Center for Science, and within EOSC Future, she's responsible for outreach and engagement. And she also sits on the board of the EOSC Association. So Sara, take it away.
Thank you very much, Katrien, and welcome everyone to this event. I will steal only a couple of minutes of your time just to inform you about an activity that we are working on in EOSC Future, but in collaboration with the other projects involved in EOSC, specifically the Infra EOSC 07 projects, the 5B projects, and Archiver. So we started this initiative to start putting together an easy-to-use communication kit to simplify the communication about EOSC. So we realized in the past months that sometimes we use different terms to indicate different things, especially when it comes to technical implementation. So we want to take the opportunity of these provider days to start publishing this kit for providers, where we will have informative material about who providers are, what are the benefits for them, how they can be engaged and contribute to the EOSC core and marketplace technical implementation. You can see on this slide some snapshot of the first items that we have worked on. All this material will be published on the EOSC portal after the provider days, so we will be informing you about this. And again, I want to stress the fact that this is a collaborative effort that we are doing also in collaboration with the other projects. And that's it from my side, Katrien.
Okay, then we are fully ready for our first session. The first session gives an introduction to EOSC for providers. We will have presentations from 3 speakers in this session. First, we'll start with John Shepherson. John is the Platform Delivery Director at the cloud-based CESSDA, where he deals with matters relating to the specification, delivery, and enhancement of technical infrastructure. Within the EOSC Future project, John is in charge of the design and development of the portal demand layer work package, and he will kick off the session with a presentation on the EOSC platform for providers. Next up, we have Diego Scardaci, and he is the Technical Solutions Team Lead at the EGI Foundation. With his team, Diego works with technical providers and research and innovation projects for technical scouting, innovation, and existing EGI services, as well as the piloting of new services and solutions following users and service provider requirements. And he will give you more detail on what it means to be an EOSC provider. Then Paolo Manghi is the Technical Director of the OpenAIRE infrastructure. He is involved in a myriad of Horizon research projects on EOSC and research e-infrastructure. He's, for example, the scientific coordinator of OpenAIRE Nexus, and he's also very heavily involved in the development of EOSC Future EOSC Platform, including on the design and development of the portal supply layer. And he will give an introduction on why you should become an EOSC provider. So without further ado, John, I'll hand over to you for the introduction.
Thank you, Katrien. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the EOSC platform. So the vision of the EOSC project is to create a web of fair data and services, fair as in findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, of course. And it wants to federate the e-infras and research infrastructures in order to do that. And the e-infras include GIANT, EUDAT, OpenAIRE, EGI.
Sorry, John, we don't see your slides.
You don't see my slides?
No.
Oh, I do, forgive me. I do apologize for that. Okay. Do you see them now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. So the EOSC vision. So sorry, that was a web of fair data and services, a federation of e-infras and research infrastructures, and the research infrastructure science clusters, including ENVRI, EOSC Life, ESCAPE, PANOSC, and SHOCK. And EOSC will create an environment in which data can be brought together with services from providers and create a trusted virtual federated environment to allow that data and research outputs to be shared and reused across borders. So the mission of EOSC Future is to deliver an operational EOSC platform, which is a minimal viable EOSC. And the four components of a minimal viable EOSC are core services, EOSC portal and marketplace, interoperability framework, and support services. And I'll touch on some of these a little more, and my colleague Mark certainly will pick up on EOSC Exchange, portal and marketplace in a later talk. So we'll be looking at these in more detail. So the EOSC core, what is it? Basically, it's the bread and butter elements of the EOSC platform, which act as enablers and support other routine activities. The core elements tend to be used by many other parts of the platform, acting as building blocks for more advanced composed services. And they're often behind the scenes so that the users of the platform may not see them or even be aware that they're interacting with them. What do they do? Well, things like service monitoring, alerting and reporting, accounting for the use of shared resources, controlling access to the various resources that are made available through the EOSC platform, providing support and help for users, and managing the ordering process for the resources. The portal, well, the portal is the opposite of the EOSC core in that it is the public face of the EOSC platform. And basically, it provides something for three classes of user: for resource providers, typically infrastructures, private sectors, tool providers, etc. For resource consumers, which might be researchers, research communities, citizen scientists, and for resource facilitators, funders, policymakers, and others. And for providers, well, they can add resources, modify descriptions of their resources, see usage, and user rating information about their resources. Consumers can find, order, and use the available resources, and they can personalize their experience and get recommendations. And the recommendations would be along the lines of relevant projects, data, publications, and training materials, and potential collaborators, be that people, task forces, or communities, based on their previous interactions with the platform. And for facilitators, they can use the Open Science Monitor to see the fairness and the Open Science indicators. The Open Science Monitor provides a dashboard that collects and provides this statistical information about the use of the resources. So the other two elements are interoperability and support. The EOSC interoperability framework provides overarching standards and guidelines for the composability of resources in the core and the portal and marketplace, in order that services can be strung together to make sort of higher value services from the existing components. And the support services are mostly human-centric activities along the lines of monitoring, training, and user engagement, and also supporting the operation of the platform and making EOSC more attractive and easier to use. So, in a nutshell, some of the benefits of the EOSC platform are that open science practices and skills are rewarded and taught in order to normalize them. Standards, tools, and services are used in order to allow researchers to more easily find, access, reuse, and combine results. It promotes the open sharing of scientific results and co-creation, in that users are seen as the experts of their own experience, and industry engagement is encouraged, and technical pilots are facilitated via the Digital Innovation Hub. There's the Enhanced Open Science Monitor, which I briefly touched upon, a Knowledge Hub, which is a combination of a learning platform where training courses can be run, and a training catalog, so training resources can be discovered and used. And an improved provider portal, which there will be more details in a later presentation. So that's it for me. That's my EOSC platform in a nutshell. Thank you for listening.
Okay, good morning, everybody. After this introduction from John, I'll give you some more information about who are the providers that are offering resources in EOSC. This slide lists the main categories of providers that can deliver services and resources in EOSC. We can start with the infrastructure, like UDAT, IGI, and also national infrastructure that can deliver horizontal services. So services can be used in the context of multiple scientific domains, like computing infrastructure, data management services, storage, training, and so on. Then we have the research infrastructures. Then can deliver data analysis tools, virtual research environment specific for a given scientific sector. These are the two main categories that are currently there in the EOSC, but this will be reached by other categories that are adding more services in these days in the EOSC service catalog. So we have the higher education institutes, then the university. They can decide to deliver their services and resources they produced to their scientific work to EOSC Research Institute, so for the same. Archives and repository, they can share software, other research product, dataset, publication, and so on. But we can also have generic computing and data centers. They can be institutional data center, computing data center, or academic, or can be also commercial computing data center. They can deliver all kinds of IT services. We can have providers, publishing journals providers to share publication, libraries, to share publication, but also dataset. And in general, we can also have commercial providers. So the EOSC is not only for the academic world, but also commercial providers can decide to deliver their services and resources to EOSC. Now, let's give you a bit more information about what we intend with EOSC resources. An EOSC resource is everything that can be delivered to EOSC. Can be a service, so then something that combines human activities like operation support and so on with the research product. So example can be a data processing services, a storage archiving system, a thematic environment. A resources can be also a research product. So digital objects, a data set identified with the PID, some software, publication, FTO, and so on. You can see that the two elements in the slide are connected. Indeed, the research product are delivered in EOSC through services. So a data set is hosted in a data source. A software will be published in a software repository, a publication in a publisher repository, and so on. Now, going a bit more into details on what the provider can offer to EOSC. As I said, we have services and research product. Currently, the EOSC marketplace is only offering services that may be horizontal services like computer resources, storage, orchestrator, data management services, but can be also, I would say, services focused on specific scientific disciplines like data analysis tools, virtual research environment, and so on. This set of services will be soon reached with the research product that will be available in beta during the summer in June of this year, and they will be available in production in September 2022, that will reach the current set of resources offered by EOSC with dataset, software, publication, and so on. You can see on the right of the slide some screenshots that I extracted from the EOSC marketplace that show you different elements of EOSC published and can be accessed by the user. In particular, we can see in this slide that this is an example, this slide of a service that is offered to the EOSC, the EOSC Platform, and the specific providers of this service is Terra2. But in the EOSC marketplace, we can also have something I would say more generic, like an horizontal services delivering computer resources like the AGI Cloud Compute. In this case, the provider is EGI. And we can have also repository like Zenodo that the provider is OpenAIRE. This is all example of services offered by EOSC, and one of these in particular Zenodo is also a data source, so it will also allow to expose multiple datasets to EOSC. Now let's move to the research product that, as I said, that will be fully available in EOSC in September of this year. And we'll have, for example, we'll have publication available in EOSC, like the one I'm showing in the slide, that is a publication related to analyzing the Twitter data. The most interesting part of the research product is the fact that it can be interconnected with other research products and with services. So, for example, the analyzing Twitter data publication is referring to some data set about the Twitter-based population mobility during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in addition, this publication can be also connected with some software, for example, to perform some analysis on the data set linked to the publication. The data set in the publication can be also hosted in a service, in a data source, that is, for example, in the slide Zenodo. So the user can land, for example, in the page of the publication, identifying the dataset, identifying the software needed to analyze the dataset. And in addition, in the marketplace, the user can also identify some services that where this software can be deployed and the dataset can be copied to perform the analysis. So putting together in EOSC both the services and the research product would allow the user to implement a full, I would say, the full data life cycle, putting together the different pieces he can find in the EOSC. To conclude my presentation, I'd like to give you some basic information about the rules of participation. The rules of participation are the rules that each provider should satisfy to publish its services and research product in EOSC. They are very high-level rules, and they are split in 5 basic criteria. The first one, the first criteria is about the acceptable onboarding groups, then the groups of providers that can publish their services and resources in EOSC. In this case, the main requirement is that the provider fulfill all the necessary information in the provider profile that is registered in EOSC, and the provider should be a legal entity. This is a mandatory requirement. The second criteria is about the acceptable onboarding people. The provider that can onboard the resources should deliver these resources, and in the case of federated resources, the person that is the provider that is registering the services in the EOSC should be the lead provider. Then the third criteria is the acceptable resources. It's about what kind of services or resources can be accepted in EOSC. First of all, these resources should be offered live to a customer, should have a sufficient maturity, then a TRL more than 8, and should be targeted to the EOSC and EOSC communities, or should be built on the EOSC capabilities. The fourth criteria is about having a complete profile, meeting some basic requirement, like the provider should define its profile, and all the information should be provided in English. The basic information related to the resources, like the policies to access them, should be in English. The provider should offer an help desk support function that is able to answer in English, and the resources the provider is offering to EOSC should be available in Europe and in a European language. The latest criteria is about maintaining the up-to-date information. This means the providers should keep the information registered in EOSC to present its services and resources to the EOSC users up to date. So the provider should regularly update the information when there is any change. That's all from my side. And I'd like to give now the stage to Paolo.
Hello, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, Diego. So why becoming an EOSC provider? Well, first of all, because if we do science, of course, we need to share science. We need to share our results. And this, in many cases, happens and takes place within our community boundaries. That's a classic. It's natural. Of course, it's in our genes to do that. So we follow our own procedures. We live in our own environment, virtual environment, digital laboratories, and so on. So as John claimed before, the EOSC is really about cross-cutting. So going across different silos which naturally form in science. So it's a way to naturally share what we are doing beyond our daily horizons. Okay, so the idea is basically to enable a common language across different domains, and enable the sharing of resources, of the results of the services, as Diego has explained, beyond our boundaries. So this takes place, of course, first of all, by sharing according to a common language, trying to describe what resources are in a way that is, in general, agnostic of the individual science, but still keeping some information about the individual science. And sharing these resources require the providers to agree on common language, common metadata, common protocols, and so on. And this is where the EOSC comes into place. So the resource catalog is a way to share for all of us what we are doing using, let's say, a common lingua franca in a way. And once we are sharing these resources and we have built ways to interconnect them in various ways, of course, this can be visible to others in their own domains. And again, here, the EOSC is not coming in to replace what the communities are doing, but rather trying to enrich what the communities are doing. So if you look at it from a consumer perspective as a community, you may learn about resources that are being shared and created by others in different domains that may be really useful to you. So as a research community, you may acquire, for example, resources to be consumed like computing, or even learn that others in a domain not so far away, galaxy, let's say, are producing data or software that may be useful to you in your context. And of course, the EOSC in that sense becomes also a way to reach out to the industry and to the overall SMEs and industry community that is out there trying to reuse what science produces. So the EOSC there can become also a way to reduce the gap between the industry world and the science world. On top of that, of course, when we talk about lingua franca, one important aspect is to be able to describe to which degree resources can be reused in terms of interoperability with other resources. And in the EOSC future, we are trying to walk for the first time this path, let's say, trying to describe to which extent the resources are interoperable with others. So we are introducing, let's say, the language that is necessary to describe these aspects of interoperability and share it across different domains in order to enable the composability of these resources, forming data aggregations or service pipelines in the future, but in a way to suggest also that a service that is being created, for example, and used daily in a community may interoperate with another one that is of which it was completely unaware of. Finally, one of the, not finally, because there's another slide, another important consequence of sharing resources through the EOSC catalog is that these are made available to the whole scholarly communication infrastructure. So to the services for the reporting to the commission, reporting to the funders, services that ensure scientific reward is properly achieved, and in a way that is considering the overall scientific production. So it's not just about publication, it's also about data, it's also about software, how these are being shared, if they're open, if they're not open, if they are interrelated. So if scientists are sharing also the interconnections between these, and also finally about the services that are involved in this process. It's always very hard, for example, to report the impact of research communities and research infrastructures in terms of the services they operate. And the resource catalog is trying to go in that direction. So we are acquiring not just the resources and how they're interconnected, but also information about their usage, which adds on top of this infrastructure what is required to come up with indicators that, let's say, are more fine-grained with respect to impact and to the consequence of our actions in science. So through the resource catalog, we are connected to the European Commission portal. So when we are reporting, we can straight away connect our products to our projects. we are also connected to services like ORCID, Scopus, and SciVal and Elsevier for final reporting. Finally, as I mentioned before, once you share, you can also take advantage of several added value functions that the EOS core is providing. These are not mandatory. They will be explained more in detail in later stages, but they are essentially related with the monitoring and the accounting of usage, which is a key and important factor, and the AAI, which is again extremely important, and the possibility of having access to a help desk, which we may not have in our own domain. And I'm done. So I think we reached the Q&A session.
Yes. So I saw that a few of you already posted questions in Slido. So let's go through them. First
Can you
question.
share the Slido, Kathleen?
Yeah, we're on it. It should be loading. Voila, there you go. So first question is, how will research projects be added and curated in the EOSC platform, and by whom? Maybe that's a question for you, Diego.
I would leave this to Paolo. I think he can answer better.
Okay, so research products acquisition. First of all, let me clarify one concept, which sometimes is not so clear. So we are sharing via metadata. Okay, so the EOSC is not about collecting your actual data and deliver it to somebody else at the level of the resource catalog, because this may happen with other services that are provided by the EOSC, like the data transfer or this kind of stuff. But in this case, we're sharing the metadata. So we know what the research product is about and where it is hosted. And we provide all the tooling that is necessary to reach out to the original data source and collect the product. In that sense, data curation is responsibility of the data source. It's not responsibility of the EOSC. What the EOSC can do, and it does, in fact, is to provide feedback to the original data sources, because the EOSC acquires metadata information about the same object from several sources. And these, when deduplicated and put together, give life to a richer metadata record in general that can therefore be useful to the original data sources to learn where they were wrong and how to fix the data. But we are not responsible for the data quality, the initial data quality. So we validate the data sources. We check that the metadata they provide respect the conditions set by the EOSC in terms of interoperability framework, in terms of vocabulary, formats, and so on. But quality in the sense of, is this metadata really describing well the data behind, is responsibility of the communities, not of the EOSC.
Okay, I don't know, Wilmar, whether that's clear. If not, feel free to follow up in Slido or to unmute yourself here. Then a question that was just upvoted is, as always, sort of a vocabulary question, which is what is the difference between a resource catalog and how is that, and the EOSC portal? Who wants to take that?
I can take this, Catherine. The resource catalog is a back office component of the EOSC portal. It's where all the different EOSC resources are registered. And the resource catalog feeds the EOSC marketplace, that is the front-end platform. That is what the user can see, where the user can look for services and soon also research products. In addition, the resource catalog will be enriched with more functions in the short future. So this means that we will offer APIs that to register resources that are already available, but would also allow to connect third-party resource catalog to the EOSC one. So this means, for example, that a community with its own catalog can decide to publish a bunch of their resources in EOSC, or vice versa, can decide to pool some resources in EOSC and make them available to their own community, to their own catalog.
Okay, again, if this is not clear, feel free to follow up in Slido. I saw that in the meantime, someone's posted another question about the resource catalog, namely someone asked or mentions that catalogs of resources, for instance, describing repositories and standards already exist in the EOSC ecosystem, and is asking how will the resource catalog reuse them?
Can I take this one?
Go ahead.
Yes, they will all be reused. So the rule of thumb is reuse the extent. So we are trying, we are doing everything we can to reuse the existing catalogs, the existing registries, especially when these exist, to create a catalog without introducing further redundancy. Okay, so that's the general idea. So many sources that we are aggregating are catalog that behind have data sources, or they are catalogs of services. So we collect from the catalog the information about the profiles.
Okay, I hope that's clear. If you have more questions about how this works technically, I think we'll need to follow up afterwards, because that is probably outside of the scope of this session. So let's maybe take another question that is related, because it also talks about how EOSC fits in with the broader community. There's someone asking how EOSC fits with respect to community platforms like Galaxy. Anyone, is that something, is that you again, Paolo? It's all questions for Paolo today.
No, it depends from the perspective, of course, because Diego, I'm sure, can tell us more about the Galaxy workflows in general. But so large community platforms like Galaxy must exist. So they have to exist. Nobody is trying to replace them. They could, in principle, become one of the EOSC exchange services used also by others. So through the EOSC, what is a Galaxy component, so a Galaxy service, the Galaxy workflows, the Galaxy templates concept will be shared as products and resource products and as services, and therefore will be made available to others. So Galaxy is a quite cross community. Of course, the life science are using it quite heavily, but also other communities are using it. And that's the idea. So all these communities can share, the bricks of these ways of building buildings, constructions. And I think the EOSC is the added value is exactly there, right?
Anything you would want to add there, Diego?
Yeah, I think the benefit can be twofold. Since, as Paolo said, the Galaxy community can decide to share its platform to allow other communities, for example, to leverage on it, to use it. So going beyond the boundary of the life science, for example. From the other side, the Galaxy community can get something from EOSC, for example, can find some specific service, can allow to reach the offer and so on. So the idea is that to EOSC, to enable this cross-community fertilization that would, at the end, beneficial for all the communities, since they can exchange resources, service, research product, and can benefit from, I would say, the most advanced area from each community. So you can see the EOSC a way to make aware others of what we are delivering, and to become aware of what the others are delivering, and that facilitate the integration and the composition of these different resources coming from different scientific areas, scientific communities.
Okay, we have time for one more question, I think. For all the questions that we didn't get to, you can, if you really want an answer to those, some of them I think will be addressed in later sessions. But if there's something that you're really wondering about, you can always contact info@eoscfuture.eu, and I'll post that email address in the chat. But then maybe let's take one last question, one that has gotten particularly many upvotes is the one on the technology readiness level. Someone says that the website says 7 for listing in the catalog and 8+ for integration of ordering. And Diego said that it was 8+. Can you clarify maybe, Diego, maybe that's outdated information on the website, I don't know.
No, the information on the website is up to date, is the correct one. Then 8 is for the ordering, but for listing, the 7, TVL 7 is enough.
Okay, that was, I think, a clear answer. So for everyone whose question we didn't get to, we need to get our speakers ready for the next session. So we will need to let you go, but you can always contact us at info@eoscfuture.eu. But as I said, I think many of the questions will be addressed in later sessions. So I'm hoping to see you again in 15 minutes for our next session, which will be on the EOSC core. So hopefully see you all then. And thanks a lot for our brilliant speakers. And we'll see some of them again as well. Bye-bye, everyone.